As we were growing up, I lived on the farm area, and this was after we moved away from Camden. We raised hogs and chickens and cows and things like that, so we always had to feed the hogs, feed the cows, and we had to feed the chickens too. The rooster was a mean rooster, and he jumped on my sister, and I went in there trying to fight him fight the rooster off of my sister, and then he jumped on me, and my dad had to come in with a rope and whip the rooster away because he was mean. I put my grade up so I could go to Dunbar. And so I went to Dunbar, and I was taking up bricklaying. I wanted to be a bricklayer. So I was taking up bricklaying, and then they transferred us to a rural school called J.C. Cook at Wrightsville. And we had to ride the bus down there all the time. Well, I wanted to go to work for Boeing's aircraft company, so I went to Wichita, Kansas, to go to work for Boeing's aircraft. And while I was waiting to be selected there, my mother got a letter from the military saying that I had been drafted. So then I had to come all the way back to Arkansas because my mother said, you need to come back because we don't want you to get in any trouble. So I came back to Arkansas, and I was inducted into the military then. And I did my basic training. Well, before I got the basic training, I did the processing at Fort Sill, Oklahoma. Then we left Fort Sill, Oklahoma, and went to Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri, where I received all of my military training. While at Fort Sill, I took a short discharge in the show on there on the 19th of December, where I would volunteer for 3 years. See, I was inducted for 2 years, but then they volunteered us if we wanted to, and that's what I did. I accepted that. So that's where I started at December the 19th from Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri. Then I had 3 years to do. We knew there was some segregation, but we were all out there, brothers and brothers. We were there training to kill or be killed.
Yes,
so that's what we took it serious. And so whereas I didn't have any problem with the segregation part of it because we never experienced that. I was a crane operator, and we used a truck-mounted crane, and we had a crane with a small boom on it so we could reach inside of the airplanes and pick up the heavy loads and take them out without damaging the aircraft. And so my co-worker and I we did that real well together. Sometimes I'd drive the truck and he would do the operating the crane, and there are times when I operated the crane and he drove. So we were a team. When they would bomb the strips at night, we'd build them back the next day. And one of the things that we learned doing Korea, that's when the temperature would get down 50 to 60 degrees below zero. And when the F-86 Sabre jets would take off, the concrete would just blow up from the heat of the exhaust. And when they blow up, it leave little potholes all over the airstrip. So our job was to replace all of that. So what we learned to do is replace it with the concrete strips. We put 8 inches of asphalt on top of that, and then that's caused it not to have blowing up. The strip didn't blow up then because the asphalt could take the heat without exploding at that cold temperature. So we had to pull guard duty 24 hours around the clock. So we had 3 different shifts in order to protect the equipment so they wouldn't steal it. Because the guerrillas would come in and take stuff from the car, from the vehicles, and they would take tires off of the vehicle. They would steal the batteries, and they would take anything they can get. So we had to pull 24-hour guard duty all the time. So sometimes we had guerrilla attacks, and we would shoot in that direction. So I don't know whether I killed anybody or not, but I fired my weapon in the direction where we heard the noise coming from. Everybody was looking for mail when they have mail call. And my mom, she baked me some what we call tea cakes back in the time. A lot of people don't know what tea cakes are. But she would send a box of tea cakes to Korea, and we get them about a month later. And when they came, if you didn't get the first 3 out of there, pass that box around, it'd be empty when they come back. So we always be sure we got the first. And that same thing with smoking too. When you open a pack of cigarettes, you better get your cigarette out first, because when you pass around, it don't come back. Yeah, that was 2 MiGs chasing the F-86. And as they were chasing it, the pilot was quite a pilot, because he was winding around and around and around, doing the somersaults and everything. And he flew straight to the mountains. And when just before he got to the mountain, he pulled up. And the F-86 had a better pull up than the MiGs. The 2 MiGs crashed into the mountain. So I saw that. I wanted to be an astronaut, so when I got out of the military in '55, I wanted to go to engineering school so I could qualify to be an astronaut. But when I came back to Arkansas in 1955, they would not let any African-American people go to engineering school. I had to go all the way back to California to continue my training that I was receiving out there. And my wife at that time, she hated California, so she wasn't going to go back. So I chose to raise my family rather than follow my desire to be an astronaut. I went to work for the American warehouse, and I learned how to do some of everything. So I went over to pick up my furniture that we had shipped from California at the warehouse, and so the guy asked me, he said, well, I noticed you're military, you want a job? I said, no, I'm learning how to be a civilian. I don't want a job right now, because I was going to go back to California. And then I talked to my mom about it, and so she said, well, if you hadn't decided you're going to go back yet, go ahead and take the job and work so you have some money while you're waiting to go. And so later on I thought about it, then I went back that Monday and talked with the guy, and he gave me a job, and I came in as a floor sweeper. And then he wanted to know, did I know how to read? And I said, yes, I do. So he put me in the car, separating the products that was being shipped all over the city of Little Rock. Cereal and washing powder and all the kinds of things that they were getting paid to take it off of their cars, out of the box cars. And so I learned how to do that, and I got to be a shipping clerk, and then I got to be a truck driver. I drove 18-wheeler, and I drove a winch truck, and all of the telephone bays that's installed on 7th and Main, 7th and Louisiana, I helped to horse all of those up, and we pushed them through the window, and I was the one who operated the winch truck. I was going to school at the same time while I was working. So I worked 8 hours a day and went to school 4 hours a night. And sometime I had to walk home, which was about 12, 15 miles. But I did it. I refused not to get my education. Yes, I would use the GI Bill until it ran out, and then I had to pay for the last 2 years.
And where did you go to school at?
Jones High School in North Little Rock. Don't exist anymore. But I went there, and then when I graduated from Jones High, I went to Arkansas Baptist College on 16th, and it used to be 16th and High, 16th and Martin Luther King now. And that's where I graduated from. And while working, after I left the warehouse, after I graduated, I went to work for the boys training school for delinquent boys. And I worked there for about 2 years. And then I had an opportunity to go to work for Leonard Smith College when the Upward Brown project got started. And I was a dorm parent for the Upward Brown project for Leonard Smith College. And then we worked there for a couple of years, and then after that, I had an opportunity to go to work for the Economic Opportunity Agency, which was a community action agency. And I worked with them to about 5 years, maybe longer. And during that time, while I was working there, I enrolled in the Pulaski County Technical College, and I learned to take up automotive. And we came out and opened up our own business, and we operated about 5 years, and then I gave it over to my partners. Well, because of the community action work that I stated in there, they saw fit to bestow an honorary doctor's degree upon me because of my community action work. This was the economic opportunity agency that I was working for at the time, that I worked with all the young people in the county. And we had 5 youth council groups, and we had 5 ball teams, and we had 3 Head Start centers developed. And then we were able to get a municipality. It was a community in Wrightsville. We were able to get it incorporated into a municipality. And they selected their mayors and the aldermen and all of that. And they became a new municipality, so they're doing well.
Very nice.
And at one of the south end of the community, south end of Pulaski County, we had Hensley and Woodson, and they never had any natural gas. So what we were able to do was to get money put together by the state and the gas company, and they extended the pipeline from Redfield to Hensley and Woodson. And so that's how we was able to get natural gas there. All I did was organize the community and encourage them to pull themselves up by their own bootstraps, and that's what they did. I suggest that as a good way to learn discipline, because many of our young people today, they like discipline. And that would be a good way. And one of the other things I said is stay positive. Learn how to recognize our Creator. The Creator is the source of our strength. And if you don't believe it, try it. You might like it. But it is a challenge, and I say that for life itself, never give up. Never give up. Stay positive.